Hi, everybody. Happy New Year. Thank you so much for being with us for the first Technicolor Online of 2021. I am Massimo, HIV Prevention and Testing Coordinator at Positivist, and tonight I'm here with our fabulous guest, Hugh. As many of you know, Technicolor is a monthly LGBT plus film night born in Redbridge Central Library to provide to the LGBT plus community in Redbridge a much needed safe space to get together and be ourselves. When COVID-19 struck, we decided to transition to the film night online, proposing it every second Monday of the month as a live event on Positivist's Facebook page. So if you are watching this live on Facebook, thank you for tuning in, and please remember to fill in our evaluation online, clicking on the link in the comments, and let us know of any film or subject of discussion that you would like us to cover in the future. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please like and subscribe to our channel. Let me talk to you a little bit about Positivist. Positivist is London's largest community-based HIV charity. We provide support services to people living with HIV who either live or access HIV care in East London. These services include peer support, counseling, group activities, and welfare and benefit advice. We also provide free HIV and STI testing, free condoms, and sexual health advice online. To people across East London. Since COVID started, we moved all the services from face-to-face to online. So if you are interested in accessing them, please do get in touch on our website, www.positivist.org.uk, by email at prevention@positivist.org.uk, or on our live chat on the website. Or if you prefer, you can call us on the phone to the number 02077912855, and then choosing option 3 for sexual health information and online supported self-testing for HIV and or STI. You can also order free condoms from us to be delivered anonymously to your house. And as with most charities, Positivist has had to cancel our regular fundraising events due to the pandemic, meaning we need support now more than ever. So please take a look to our website and consider supporting us in any way that you can. So the film that we are discussing tonight is Duck, a 2018 film about an 80-year-old drag queen who forms an unlikely friendship with a younger queen. And here with us to discuss it is Hugh, a longtime friend of Positivist, a director and actor who also worked at Positivist as our interim trusts and foundations manager. Hugh is also very well known as his drag persona Shirley Du Naughty, and has been doing drag for over 10 years with drag supergroup Denim, performing all around London in Glastonbury and at Soho Theatre. Our viewers will also remember Shirley as the fabulous host of our Technicolor Online World's AIDS Day 2020 special edition. Hi, Hugh.
Hello.
Hi. I have some questions for you tonight. But by the way, if any of you has any questions for you after my question, please write on the comments below the video, and we will ask you the questions at the end. So, you, first of all, may I ask you to tell us more about yourself and your current projects?
Yes, so thank you firstly for having me. It's a pleasure to be here and to talk about this film. So I'm a writer and a director and an actor and a drag queen, lots of things. I run a creative writing and performance project called HIV Voices, and HIV Voices is partnered with Positivist. So we do a lot of work together. I also am in, as you said, a 5-member drag band called Denim. So I'm one of 5, and my drag alter ego is Shirley Du Naughty. So I don't know if you saw, but this is her. She's sleeping currently. She's having some beauty sleep, much needed these days. And yeah, we're produced, well, we have been produced by the Soho Theatre, and we've done a lot of work with the Soho. And yeah, so I'm do lots of different things, and obviously I work at Positive East.
Yeah, yeah, it's amazing all the things that you do. But let's talk about the film. So the film story is based in Brighton. Do you think it represents well the drag queen scene in the UK in general? And are there any differences in the drag scene in the different cities, like, let's say, between Brighton and London or Manchester, just to name a few?
Yeah, I think it does show the drag scene like authentically, I think, on the whole. It's obviously quite hard to kind of, as a film, it's obviously got its artistic and creative objectives, and you know, and the drag scene is so kind of, there's lots of different types of drag, and obviously it's just showing maybe one kind of form of drag, maybe this particular film, but I think it does so well, and I don't think it's trying to kind of whitewash or kind of put a sort of, I think it shows it in a kind of in its kind of positive and uplifting, but also quite challenging and difficult at points kind of way. So I think, yeah, as a whole, it portrays a drag scene authentically. Yeah, so I think definitely. And then I think in terms of the differences between like the London scene, say, to say Manchester or Brighton, I mean, I'm obviously based in London, so my main kind of frame of reference is London, is the London drag scene. So I don't want to make any sort of sweeping generalizations in terms of like, oh, well, Brighton, this is what the drag queens are like in Brighton, and well, this is what the drag scene is like in Manchester. But I think maybe in London, there's maybe potentially more of a focus on, in terms of performance, political performance, maybe. Although, again, you know, I'm sure there are queens in Manchester and Brighton and around the country who are saying absolutely not. You know, we're very political, but I think political doesn't necessarily mean just, you know, doing a bit about kind of Boris Johnson. Political is also just drag. It's getting up there and performing and kind of playing with gender. So, but what I mean in terms of London, it maybe is more kind of like connected to sort of political with a kind of capital P, maybe. Whereas in, say, Manchester, I think there's much more of a scene of like kind of the show and maybe more of kind of like look queens, and maybe it's potentially a bit more polished, arguably, you know, and there's a real kind of focus on that maybe in kind of in the north. But yeah, like I say, I mean, I'm a London queen, so I my frame of reference is limited, but that's what I think the differences are.
Well, probably as any other capital in Europe and the world, the LGBT community, and so the drag community as well is a little bit like bigger and more connected with the rest of the world, maybe.
In terms of in London?
Yeah.
Potentially, although I'd say because of the rise of like obviously social media and the internet, I think there's so much more potential for people to connect on a kind of global scale. Yeah, maybe London, maybe there's more of a I don't know, potentially there's more like spaces to perform, you know. I think London maybe there's more maybe potential in terms of kind of stages, although again, that said, there's like you know, the drag scene in places like Manchester is so kind of you know, they pride themselves on the drag scene in places like Manchester, and I think that London's maybe a bit more kind of in sort of, there's like more of a kind of range. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, and do you see any major differences between the UK drag scene and the one in the US?
I'd say the UK is maybe a little bit more kind of, there's a grimier edge that we kind of lean into maybe more. We kind of, I think that we're more willing to, yeah, we're not so kind of fussed on kind of this sort of like polished kind of RuPaulified kind of like type of drag queen, whereas maybe in the States there is more of a focus on that because of the kind of the impact of RuPaul and the impact of that show. So yeah, I think like we're not so we're happy to have, you know, facial hair and not like shave our legs, and you know, I think that's what's kind of, and there's a kind of like a very British humor that you know, that's not obviously present in the States, you know, that I think is really fun, and we should cherish. And you see that in RuPaul as well. You see that in the kind of the UK version of RuPaul in comparison to the US version of RuPaul. You know, there's definitely like, I think they've done a pretty good job of kind of capturing that kind of British humor.
Yeah.
And also in the States, there's like, sorry, I was just in the States, there's like a, you know, the focus on kind of pageantry and kind of like winning, which I don't think is such a thing here, you know, in the same kind of way. You know, and
well, there are not $100,000. You know?
Well, exactly, yeah, because the BBC, we can't have that, can we?
Exactly.
But yeah, so I think there's a lot of differences between the two. But yeah.
I can see like what you're saying, even comparing like Drag Race, the UK edition with the US, it looks like the UK queens are a little bit more like grittier, as you were saying, and rely more on the humor, on British humor, than like their counterpart in the US, who are more about like how they look like, basically, even though there is humor and there is a lot of work behind the US queens as well, but it seems more like the shift is more on the appearance, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's that. Yeah, I think you could say that, definitely. Although that said, again, like I think like everything's evolving and shifting and changing constantly, and you know, drag's no different, you know. And I think especially with the rise of RuPaul here and RuPaul coming over to the UK, we'll see what happens to the drag scene, you know, like if it kind of goes down the same kind of, you know, if it becomes a bit more like the States, I don't know, where people are judged much more on kind of what they look like, and you know,
we'll see.
We'll see its impact.
Yes. Anyway, let's go on with the next question. So the art of drag in Britain can probably trace its origin back to the theaters in the Middle Age, when women were not allowed to be actresses and female roles were covered by men in dresses. But fast forward to today, in the film we have Faith, who is a non-binary individual in their 20s, and Jackie, who is an 80 years old cross-dressing cisgender heterosexual man. And it looks like the drag scene here has evolved to a whole new level of complexity. What do you think about this complexity in the drag scene?
I think it's fantastic. And I actually think that the film really like does a good job of kind of tapping into, yeah, the kind of like what people's preconceptions of drag and what like drag should be. And then with Faith, is that their name?
Yeah.
Faith? Yeah, Faith. What Faith represents, which is maybe more of a kind of like forward-looking, kind of the future of drag, arguably. You know, where they're non-binary, they're not, you know, and they're really they really embrace that sort of middle space, maybe. I think that the film really captures that, and really well, I think, and sensitively, and yeah, and I think I think in terms of drag, and I think drag is, like I said before, like ever evolving, and it has to include, it has to be for everyone, you know. It can't, I do not ascribe to, you know, a drag queen can only be, you know, cis male, you know, or whatever, you know. I think drag is for everyone and for all genders, and it should be about that, you know. There shouldn't be like a kind of a fixed ideal of the kind of the perfect kind of drag queen. I think and I think we'll be seeing a lot more of that in the future, and I think we're already seeing, you know, I think there's a trans man in the most recent RuPaul who's a drag queen, and I think, you know, I mean, I think it's the fact that it's now being seen in kind of more mainstream, in a more mainstream kind of sense, you know, that's a really positive thing. And I think, you know, I think it's now has to be opened up. So yeah, it's great. I think it's wonderful. I think it's absolutely brilliant. And I think drag also, sorry, I'm going on a bit now, but drag has rightly so been criticized in the past for being kind of maybe misogynist, or kind of like portraying women in a kind of you know, in a kind of like nude or kind of overly kind of stereotypical way, and I think that like drag is so much more than that, and I think it should be about kind of embracing femininity, whatever that means to you, and yeah, it shouldn't just be about kind of punching down. Yeah, so I think it's great. I think drag can be so much.
That's true. That's what I think as well. At the beginning, maybe it was just gay men dressing as women, but right now it's much more complex. It's more like the celebration of a kind of imagery that is connected to women, but it's not only belonging to women only anymore, but it's more like a general kind of imagery that is very much loved, I think. Anyway, last question for you. So my favorite part in the film was this intergenerational friendship that we were seeing blossoming between Jackie and Faith. I always thought that different generations of the LGBT community can learn a lot from each other and help each other thrive. But what are the dynamics of relationship between different generations of drag queens? Is there anything like an old school and a new school of drag in the UK?
I'd say there is, yeah. I'd say there is a sort of an old school and a new school, to a certain extent. Again, everything I'm saying, I don't want to generalize or kind of say this is what this is, you know, because I think it's, you know,
yeah, sure.
Yeah, arguably, yes, there is an old and a new school, and but yeah, I think there is a connection between the old and the new, and the new drag queens and kind of, yeah, people who are just kind of coming to drag for the first time, whether it's like they're doing it themselves or they're maybe just watching it, maybe just through something like RuPaul. I think with that has to come an acknowledgement and a kind of, yeah, like an education in the past, and an understanding that, you know, we're standing on the shoulders of giants, as it were, or like giantesses, drag queens, you know, fantastic drag queens from the past who really have paved the way, and for, you know, this kind of boom of drag that we're kind of arguably experiencing now. And I think, you know, yeah, so if kind of you're new to drag, and I'm speaking for myself here, you know, for my younger self, when I was first getting into drag, you know, I think it's really easy to be really precocious and be like, oh God, there's, you know, the old school, like, you know, it's not like old fuddy-duddies, like, you know, and it's and that's really, I think that's yeah, that's not useful. And I think you have to, and there has to be a kind of conversation between the old and the new, and I think like, and a respect for older drag queens who've paved the way, as I said. But yeah, and the merging of the two, I think, you know, I think everything's moving, and it's really exciting. Yeah.
Well, that's great.
I don't know if I answered your question there, really. But...
yes, you did. It was perfect. Well, thank you for being with us. This is all from us.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure. Yeah, and a great film, a great choice of film.
Thank you very much, Hugh.
Thanks, everyone.
And let me just remind you, all our viewers, that if you need an HIV or STI test, free condoms, or sexual health advice, if you are living with HIV and would like to have access to our peer support, advice, and counseling service, or if you simply would like to support us with a donation, please visit our website, www.positivist.org.uk, and please fill in our evaluation form. You can find the link in the comments, and let us know if there are any films or subjects of discussion you would like to be covered. So Technicolor will be back next month on Monday, the 8th of February at 6 p.m. In occasion of the LGBT History Month and National HIV Testing Week, the film we will be discussing is The Normal Heart, and we will be talking about American HIV activist and playwright Larry Kramer, who wrote the playwright for The Normal Heart. And we will talk about the work of our prevention and testing team. So that's all for January. Thank you very much, and Happy New Year to everybody. Bye.